Hello, you're welcome. You're welcome to my channel. All right, in today's tutorial, I'm gonna be showing you how to configure Snort for detection. Okay, so for this, I'll be using Oracle VirtualBox. Right here is my Ubuntu server. So if you don't know how to install Oracle VirtualBox, you can equally check. I've done a video on that, on how you can install Oracle VirtualBox on your Windows and how you can mount Ubuntu server on Oracle VirtualBox. So I have all of those videos. You can check them out, right? So here is Ubuntu server which I've mounted, and right here is where we installed Snort in the first tutorial. So all we're going to do, we go to settings and we change the network. So we change the network to host only. Right, so we come here and we choose host only adapter. Then right here in the advanced, we allow all for promiscuous mode. So we come here and we allow all and be okay. So we start it up. All right, so once Ubuntu server is up, we log in with our credential. All right, so we are logged in. Then we can use ifconfig to get our IP address because we'll be connecting via PuTTY. All right, so right here is my IP address 192.168.56.103. Right, so we can, so let me just minimize this, make it small. All right, so right here is our IP address. So we'll be using PuTTY to connect remotely. Right, so for you to use PuTTY, you need to have port 22 service running on your Ubuntu server. So if you go through the video on how to set up or mount Ubuntu server on Oracle VirtualBox, right there I have shown you how you can enable SSH service during installation. So if SSH service is not running on the server, you won't be able to connect via PuTTY. All right, so let me increase the font size so that you can see it boldly when you're going through the video. So let me give it 22. All right, so we log in. So for me, it is 192.168.56.103. All right, so we type in our credentials to log in. All right, so we are in, right? Okay, so the first thing you do, you confirm if you have Snort already installed. So here we type Snort hyphen capital V and we hit enter. All right, so when you get these or when you're seeing these on your Ubuntu server, it means you have Snort already installed, Snort version 3. So right here. So when you go through my tutorial in part 1. Right there, I have demonstrated how you can install Snort on your Ubuntu server. Okay, so what next? So the next thing we need to do is to disable interface offloading to prevent Snort3 from truncating large packets. For this, we need to disable GRO and LRO. So GRO means generic receive offload, while LRO means large receive offload. So we need to disable these two features on our Ubuntu. What we're actually trying to do, to put it simple, we just want to make sure that Snort is able to work perfectly, is able to work fine without any issues, right? More especially while handling large packets, right? So that is what we are trying to do. So for this, we need to first of all check if GRO and LRO is enabled. So to do this, we can use the command sudo eth tool. All right, so before we do this, let's confirm our interface, because we'll be needing the interface name, for this. So we type ifconfig. So right here is our interface name. So it's best I save it somewhere so that I can remember, right? So you need to figure out what your own interface is. Right, so right here it is for me. All right, so what we are trying to actually do here, just a recap. So we are trying to disable GRO. So GRO here means generic receive offload, right? So we are trying to disable this and we're trying to disable this and LRO, which is a large receive offload rather. All right, so that is what we are trying to do, right? So okay, so we come here and we use the ETH tool to check the current configurations of the GRO and the LRO on Ubuntu server. So we use the command sudo eth2 rather -k. So here our interface name, which is enp, so we are working with this enp0s3 enp0s3. Then here we are piping it. Receive offload. All right, so we want to check the current configuration of LRO and GRO, so we hit enter. So sudo is asking us for a password. We type in our password. All right, so as you can see here, GRO is turned on while LRO is turned off. So the goal here is to disable both of them, right? So to disable both of them, we use the command sudo eth2. We are still using the eth2 package, then -k. So here we're using a capital K. Then our interface name, which is an enp0s3. Then GRO, we are turning it off. LRO, we are turning it off. So we are turning both of them off. So we hit enter. All right, so no error means the command ran successfully. So let's check again. So let's run the eth2 command, which is this one we ran earlier, to check what the current status of the configuration is. All right, so we hit enter. All right, so you can see here GRO is turned off and LRO is also turned off. So the goal is to make sure that these guys are turned off so that Snort can, work effectively. Okay, so the next thing, we have to make this persistent. We have to make it persistent. We do not want a situation where for each time the server reboots, we have to run we keep on running these commands for each time the server reboots, right? So that can be stressful in some cases. So we have to make it persistent, right? So that anytime our Ubuntu server reboots, the configurations are intact, So we use the systemd service to implement that. Okay. So I have a GitHub repository which makes all of these things easier because it takes some time if you want to type it manually. But right here is where I have all of these configurations. I'll be sharing these on the comment section so you can equally copy and paste, right? It's much more easier, right? So you can see what we are trying to do here. We are trying to disable NIC offloading for Snort3, right? So first thing, we run this command. So remember, we are trying to persist it, and we are trying to use the systemd service to achieve that. So we copy this, and we paste it here. So what we are trying to do, we are creating a new file called snort3nic.service in the systemd directory. So Nano is a text editor, so you can use it to write and read a file. So we open it, we hit enter. Of course, it's an empty file. So the next thing we're going to do, we copy these settings or configuration right here. Right, so we copy everything and we paste it in here. Okay. So what this actually does is that it does two things, right? First of all, it sets our interface, which is ENS. So let me confirm so that we can, if we need to make changes, we can make changes to it. ENP0S3. So we change this to ENP0S3. Okay, then we do same here, enp0s3. Okay, just to be sure, enp0s3. All right. So what I'm trying to say is that you can see here it is executing two commands, right? So the first one is actually to put this interface in promiscuous mode, right? So it has to be on promiscuous mode so that Snort can capture the entire network. Snort can capture all the traffic on the network, everything, right? So that is why we are setting that interface to promiscuous. Then secondly, the ETH tool we ran, which is to turn off GRO and LRO. So we've done that as well. So you can see the description here. So it says Snort3 NIC in promiscuous mode and disable GRO, LRO on both, right? So that is what this configuration is meant to do. Okay, so we use Control S to save. So before you save, make sure the command is correct, your interface name is correct. So we save. All right, and we exit. Control X to exit. All right, so we are good. Okay, so the next thing is for us to reload the daemon. Right, so everything here is on this repository. So you copy this command to reload the system md daemon. So we come here, all right, so it has reloaded. So the next thing, we enable it to always start up that service automatically each time Ubuntu restarts or reboots. Right, so we copy this as well and put it here. Okay, so we also started immediately, so we want it to start up right now, so we don't have to wait till the next reboot, right? So we can equally take this and put it here. I'll hit enter. Then finally, we want to verify the status. We want to know if everything is fine, if it's running, or maybe there is an error somewhere. So we copy this and check that. All right, so once you get this, once you have something like this where it is active, status equal to 0 success and all of that, it means no issues, your service is running fine and all of that, so we are good. Okay, all right, so we can clear. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to do, we are going to get rules. Snort uses rules for detection. So we're going to get rules that Snort is going to use to help us detect alerts or threats on our network. Okay, so here we go to Snort official site. So let's go to the official site. So here you can just search for Snort. Hit enter. All right, so right here is their official site. snort.org. So we okay. So we are going to be getting the rules from here, right? So without these rules, Snort will not be able to, you know, trigger alerts for you. So we click on sign in. We solve the captcha. You need to create an account. If you don't have an account, you can create one by clicking right here. So you can see here, sign up for an account. So once you click on this, you can register, right? You can sign up. So go ahead and sign up. Make sure you verify your email because a verification email will be sent to the email address you have provided. Right. So I have an account, so I'm not creating any of the accounts here. So I just log in straight up. Right. So we log in. All right. So once you're logged in, we can go to downloads. So right here on downloads, we're going to see the rules. All right. So when you click on rules, so here we are going to see the community rules for version 3.0. All right, we are also going to see the registered rules for version 3.0. So the subscription rules is grayed out. It's grayed out because for this you need to pay money, right? Or you need to subscribe to Snort before you can have access to these rules, right? So for now, we're gonna get the community rules, which is this, and we are going to get one of these snapshots. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's get this. Let's download the community rules. So we click on it. All right, so right here is downloading. All right, so equally we are going to get one of these snapshot rules. All right, so I would say let's go with this, right? Because this one looks like they have some numbers here, right? So for 31,470 appears to be, the highest number, right? So equally, you can choose to download all of these snapshot rules and integrate it with your Snort, right? All right, so for this tutorial, I'll be going with this 31,470. So we go ahead and download this. So all these rules right here is what Snort would use to detect threats when it finds one on your network. All right. All right, so how both rules here. Okay. So the next thing, we're gonna push it into the server. So we're gonna send this rule into the server so that we can extract and configure the rules with Snort. All right, so for this, we start up our command prompts. All right, so right here, we sit into our C drive, or we could just go, then we sit into our program files. All right, so we sit into putty. Okay, so it seems putty is not here, so let's go back. Let's go back to program files. All right, so putty. Then right here in putty, you're gonna find the pscp.exe, so that is what we'll be using to push that file. So cscp.exe, then we take that file, the file we just downloaded, so it's gonna be in the downloads directory. So right here it is, right? So we're gonna push Snort3 community rules first. Then after that we push the snapshots. All right, so what I love to do, I like to drag and drop into the command prompts. All right, so here we provide the host name for our Linux server, and the IP address. What is it again? Okay, 56.103. So 192.168.56.103. Then we'll put a column, then the part where we want it saved. So usually your home directory. All right, so we hit enter, so this should move that file in there. So we hit enter. It's going to ask you for your Ubuntu password. You type in your Ubuntu password there. All right, so it has moved that file. So we do for the other file, which is the snapshots. So still the same command. All we're just gonna do is we get rid of this and we drag and drop as well for the snapshots. All right. So as simple as that, then we hit enter, type in our password. All right, so we're good. All right, so when we check the Ubuntu server, we'll type ls. We're going to find this file in there. You can see it here. Snort3 community roles.tar.gz. You're also going to see the Snort rules, right? So you're going to find this file in your home directory. All right, so now the next thing is to extract these files. As you can see, they are compressed files, tar.gz. So we're going to extract them. Before extracting them, we have to create a folder we want it extracted into. So here we create a directory. So we are creating a directory in the location where Snort was installed. So if you've gone through my part 1 of the tutorial, during the installation of Snort, we have specified the location where we want it saved, right? So we equally want to create that directory in that location. So you do the mkdir rule, local etc rules. So we are creating a folder called rules. So this folder is dedicated for all the Snort rules. Alright, sorry, we have to use sudo. We have to use sudo. Alright. So we have that directory created now. So the next thing is to go ahead and extract. So here we'll be using the tar command. So here we'll do sudo tar xzf. Then the name of the file. So we are going to extract the community rules first. So we extract this. So we can just copy and so we'll just copy and we paste. All right, we'll take that community rule. Then we do -t and we specify the location where we want it to get saved. So in this case, we want it to get saved in that directory we created, which is the user local etc role. So we want it to extract and save the extracted file into that location. So here we provide the paths. All right. So this is what our command will look like. So let me expand the width to this. All right. So you know there is a space, right after -c, there's a space there. All right. So this is the command to extract the community roles and save it in the roles folder. So we go ahead and hit enter. So we're good. So we do the same for the other file, which is the snapshot rule. Still the same command, sudo tar xzf. Then we take the snapshot rule, which is this. Alright, same thing, -C. Then specify the paths, user local then rows. Okay. So we hit enter. So it has extracted and saved. So if to confirm if we have those files saved there, you can use ls, then use a local etc rules. All right, so you can see the files here. So right here is the community rules that was extracted and saved. So for the snapshots rules, as we can see, it has 4 subdirectories, or we have 4 folders or directories. So the snapshot comes with them, the SO rules, the rules, etc, and built-in rules, right? So these are all the extracted files from the rules. Okay. So now the next thing we are going to do, so we are going to make some changes. All right, so let's cd into the, okay, so first of all, let's cd into that folder, the user local etc rules. So let me, all right, so we type cd, user local, all right, so we cd into that directory. Okay, so let's clear the screen so that we can have a clearer screen. All right, so right here we have all of these files. So the next thing we're going to do, we cd into the community rules. Sorry, Snort3 community rules. All right, so in the Snort3 community rules, we have all of these files in it, right? So we are more interested in the Snort3 community rules. So what we're going to do, we are going to move or copy this file, this particular file. We are going to copy this file into the rules folder or into the rules directory, right? So we do sudo cp Snort3 community rules, then we move it into the rules folder. All right, so the reason why we are moving that is so that we can just easily include, so we can equally do it from here, but just to make things clearer and much more easier, right? So we are moving it into that folder so that we can just easily include it as part of the rest of the rules. Okay, so we hit enter. All right, so we go one step backwards, then we cd into the rules directory. All right, so right here in the rules directory, we type ls, you're gonna see so many rules here, right? Including the community rules. So the Snort3 community rules is here, right? Which is this. So we just included it over. That is why we needed to copy it in here, because this is where you have so many rules, so that we can, properly manage them and all of that. So the next thing we're going to do, we just need to include the community rule into the includes.rules files. So in here, you're going to find a file called includes, right? Includes.rules. So we're going to open this file, then we make changes to it to include the community rules. Right. So what I'm going to do, we open that file using nano. So we'll type sudo nano. Just hold on. I'm trying to, let me get the name. So we just need to, I think it's easy to remember, Snort3 hyphen community.rules. All right, so it's fine. So I wanted to save it somewhere so that I can easily copy and paste, but something I can remember, right? So we'll go ahead and type sudo nano includes dot roles. So we hit enter. Yeah, it opens this for us. So the next thing we are going to do, just anywhere, maybe at the end of the file or at the top of the file, anywhere is good. So we just add include Snort3 I think community dot roles. All right, so that is just all we need to do. All right, so we save. Control S to save and Control X to exit. All right, so at this point we are good with the rows. So right here for the snapshot rule, as you can see, there are a lot of rows, right? So all of these rows are what Snort would use to detect. So these are DNS rows, FTP rows, ICMP rows, IMAC rows, you know, browser rows. So a lot of rows, right? So you can equally go to the Snort official site and download as many rows as you wish. You put everything, you know, just like we've done, and you include them, right? So that Snort can be able to read from all your row files. Okay, so okay, so now the next thing we are going to do, so we can clear the screen. So we just need to, you know, so we can have a clearer screen. So the next thing we have to do is to configure Snort, right? Is to make changes to the Snort configuration file to tell it which network we want it to listen on, the network we want it to monitor. Remember, Snort is an NID, so it's a network intrusion detection system. So you can use it to look at what is happening in your entire network, right? So we have to open the Snort configuration file. So we need to go 2 steps backwards. Right, so when you go 2 steps backwards, when you type the ls, you know, you're going to see the rules, which was the folder we created at the time we downloaded the rules. And you're going to see the Snort folder as well, which is where we have told Snort to save during the installation. Right, so like I said, if you're skeptical, you can go to part 1, right? Go watch the video on part 1. Right there, we'll see how to, you know, download and install Snort. So this is me configuring it. So if you followed my step, you're gonna find the Snort folder in this location. Okay, so we sit into Snort. Then you type ls to view the contents. So right here, we are gonna see a file called snort.loa, which is this. So this is where all the instructions Snort uses to, you know, for detection. So right there is a configuration file. So these are also configuration files, right? But the one we'll be working with right now is snort.loa, right? So we open this file. So do sudo nano snort.lua file, and we hit enter. Okay, so the first changes we're going to make here, or settings, is the home net. So currently Snort is configured to monitor on any network. So depending on your network, it's fine, right? You can just tell it to monitor on any network. So, but for the sake of this tutorial, we'll be specifying a network we want it to, to monitor and all of that. So here we are going to use the network where the Snort server is. In my own case, it is 192.168.56.103, right? So I'm interested in that network. Right, so all you have to do is to type in the network address 192.168.56.0/24. All right, so that is why in cyber security, networking knowledge is important. So looking at this network here, looking at this IP address here, 192.168.56.103, and looking at the subnet mask here, sorry, I can't click in my Ubuntu. I don't know, the mouse doesn't go in there, but what I'm talking about is the IP address on the Ubuntu server, right? So right there, if you look at it closely, you're going to find an IP address in the inet section, which is 192.168.56.103, right? So looking at that and looking at the net mask, so the net mask comes next. All right, so my mouse can go in there. All right, but that line, you can see my pointer. So exactly that line, right? So you can see the inet, which is 192.168.56.103, which is the IP address of the server. Then you can see the net mask, right? So the net mask is 255.255.255.0. So that is very clear that the IP address is of a class C, right? So that is why we have /24, which is the CIDR value for a class C network, for a default class C network, right? Then, of course, that is the network. So since it's a class C, this will be the network. You just change the last octet to 0, right? So that is what makes it a network, right? So yeah, so this is what our configuration would look like for the home net. Okay, so we scroll down. All right, so the external network, we can leave it at any because we do not know where the attack will come in from, right? So attack can come in from anywhere. So we have to leave it at any so that Snort can be able to detect all attacks from external networks. All right, so we scroll down, we still have some other configurations. So Nano doesn't have a line number, right? If it were Notepad, or maybe Gedit or Pluma, right? So we are going to see the line numbers, but here there are no line numbers. But this particular configuration I'm about to do is at line 185. Line 185, so it's still down there. Okay, so this is where I'm looking for, or you can come to section 5. I think it's much more easier that way. Section 5, which is configure detection. Okay, so right here, what we are going to do, we are going to tell Snort which rules it should use for detection. So we can come down here. Right here. So make sure it is aligning. Then you come here and you say the include equal to, then we provide the path to where we have the rows. So we have the row saved in our user. Alright, so we'll have to enclose these in have to enclose it in double quotes. So we'll have the rows in user local. etc rules. Then in rules we also have rows, right, where it has all of those rows, right? Then includes. So the include, since Snort reads all the rows using the includes.root files, so that is why we are specifying that, and that is also why we needed to add the community rules in the include file, because that is the file we are going to point to, so that once Snort reads that file, then it calls all the other rules you have there, whether they're 1000, 100, 500. It's going to read all the rules from that file. All right, so do not forget to add the semicolon at the end. Okay, so this is what our configuration should look like. Then one more thing, we have to tell Snort to generate logs for us. So we scroll down, to the end. So right here, section 7. So I want to use the alert file. So these are the different alert types, you can use with Snort. So it all depends on your need or which one you prefer. It's all about preference, right? So if you want Snort to generate the alerts in CSV, you can go with this. If you want it to generate the alerts syslog, SF sockets, these are just the different options you can go with Snort. Okay, so for me, I'm going with the alert underscore first. All right, so we get rid of the hyphen, so those are comments. Right, so we come in here and we type pi equal to true. All right, so far this is all we need to do in the configuration file. So we've just told Snort where to look for rules, right, for detection and all of that. And we've also told Snort the network we wanted to, to monitor and detect this threat. We've also told it to save the logs for us, right? So these are just the basic configurations we need. So if there's anything extra you want to do, depending on your own environment or wherever, architecture within where you're working, then you can just, here's the configuration file, so you can just modify, make changes where necessary. Okay, so far we are good. Just to be sure everything is fine. Okay, so if we have any errors along the line, we'll have to come back. All right, so we save Control S to save and Control X to exit. All right. Okay. So the next thing we need to do, for the sake of security, right? If you're setting up Snort in a production environment, you need to create a separate user for Snort, a separate user, so that Snort would always run with the privilege of that user. So that if at any point in time, maybe due to any vulnerabilities on Snort, it's going to be limited. So the attacker won't be able to, gain all the privilege or have all the privileges when they gain access, right? So you're just going to create an account, a least privilege account for Snort to use. All right, so for this, we'll first of all create a group. So let me clear the screen. So we create a group, right? To use the command sudo group add. So create a group called Snort. And we hit enter. All right. So next we are going to create a user Snort and add that user Snort to the group Snort, right? So to do this, we use the command sudo user add with an arrow, having an S. So we are trying to, so this user we are creating, which is Snort, cannot log in into the system, right? So this is also due to security reasons. So this is just a user there, just like a service account, just there to run a service. You can't log in with it. No login. Then -G. Okay, so let me make this big so that when you're going through the video, you get to know where there are spaces. I think you can go beyond this. Okay, so all right, so there's actually a space right after no login, right? Then -G, so that you don't think it's together, right? So there are spaces. Okay, then -G Snort, which is a group, we're adding that user Snort. So this is the user we are creating Snort, and we're adding that user Snort to the Snort group. So we hit enter. No errors, we are good. So the next thing, we are going to create a directory for login, right? So we are going to create a directory where Snort logs will be saved. All right, so for us to do this, we use the mkdir arrow. Then we are going to create a folder. Going to create a folder. I don't want to use -p. Right, so we're going to create a folder called Snort in the log directory. So in Linux, this is where logs are saved, right? So we're just trying to create a folder so that we get to know that all the logs or all the files in the Snort folder are for Snort logs. All right, so next of course, we've created a user for Snort. So we're also going to give Snort that permission, right? So we're going to change the ownership and the group ownership of that folder Snort in the log directory to the user Snort. So for this, we use the command sudo chown to change the ownership, -arrow. So we are giving it to Snort, the Snort user, and also the group ownership as well, Snort. Then the file, which is a value of Snort. All right. So we hit enter. We're good. Then also we change the permission. So we are going to give the owner, which is Snort, read, write, and execute, and we are going to give every other user read and write. Right, chmod 755. Then the directory. All right, so we hit enter, so we're good. Okay, so we've just created a separate user or a new user for Snort. Then the next thing we are going to do is to run Snort, right? But now we are going to configure or run Snort as a service daemon, right? So I don't know, I just prefer this so that Snort is going to run as a service, so I don't have to start up Snort all the time. So the moment my Ubuntu server reboots, automatically Snort starts capturing. Okay, so to set this as a service, so we have to, so it's right here on the repository. So like I said, I'll be dropping this on the comment section so you can easily copy and paste. All right, so what we are going to do, we are going to create a file called snort3.service. All right, so let me clear the screen, then I will paste that command. All right, so we hit enter. So next we copy all of these here. So this is like the configuration for Snort. All right, so we paste it. I think we need to make some changes. So the changes we need to make here is for the interface. So let's confirm what I keep forgetting. So ENP 0S3, ENP 0S3, so it's fine. Okay. All right. So we are good. So we save. Control S and Control X. Okay, so the next thing, we reload the daemon. So we copy this, paste it right here. All right, so we'll try to make sure there are no errors. If you're getting errors, that means something is wrong somewhere. So next, we try to enable that service during reboots. All right, so no errors, we're good. And next, we try to look at the status to see if everything is running fine. Okay, so we start the service, then we check the status. All right, so we finally check the status. All right, so yeah, so when you're getting this status active running, it means your Snort is running fine. There are no issues anywhere. Yeah, that is what it means. Right, so let's also see if it is creating the logs for us. So you just press your Q key, your Q for Queen, to take you out of this. So let's check our log directory to see if it's creating the alert fast log for us. So here we type ls var log. All right. All right, so it's not creating it, so we need to restart. So let's reboot the system, right? So we created a new user, so we'll have to reboot so that those changes can take effect. Right, so we're back. So let's reboot this. All right, so Ubuntu is done restarting. So let's check again if the log file is being created. So we do the same thing. We type ls var log snots. All right, so right here it has created a file. So if everything goes well, after restarting your Ubuntu server, you should see this file in your Snort directory, which is where the logs are saved. Now, when you open this file, so you can use tails or you can use cats, any of them, but let's use cats, let's use cats. So you can cat that file. Okay, so we can. All right, so we can cut the file. So you can see here, this is what you're going to see. So this is what logs looks like. So it is not so beautiful, right? It is not so beautiful when you look at it from here. And that is why you know, that is why, the SIEM tools are much more better, like Splunk and the likes, right? So with Splunk, you can actually look at this file and it makes more sense to you, right? So it's not so beautiful here, but these are just some of the things you are seeing here. So here is the time and dates. So here's the time and dates that that alert was logged. Then here is like the ID of that alert, what it used to detect. Then you can see some description here which tells you what attempt was done, right? You can see is server order MRA LG fast ping echo reply. So this is like a response, a ping response, right? Then here you can see the classification. So the classification here is a miscellaneous attack. Then you can see priority. So in Snort, you have priority 1. Priority 1 means it is high. Priority 2 means it is medium. Priority 3 means it is low, right? There is also priority 4. Priority 4 means very low, right? So from these priority levels, you can tell how severe that detection is, so that you can be proactive in either, containing that threat or blocking it or whatever action you need to take, right? So this priority helps you in prioritizing how you should manage all of these threats. So you can see the protocol that was used, right? And you can see the source of the IP address. So of course this is a reply, so it means Ubuntu server, because right here is the IP address of Ubuntu server 192.168.56.103. So I think it is responding to a ping from the gateway, right? 192.168.56.1 is the IP address of the gateway. So this was like a response, from the ping request. Right, so this is what the Splunk alert looks like, right? So all of these things here. So what we are going to do, we are going to carry out a brute force attack. Let's see if Splunk is going to, I said Splunk, sorry. Let's see if Snort is going to detect that for us. Right, so we do that from Kali. So if you don't have Kali, you can check out my previous videos. You'll see how to get Kali installed. All right. So these are actually the commands to carry out a brute force attack. So here we are using Hydra. We specified the username list. So the word list you should use to, look for the username. And here is also -P, which is also a word list for the password. So in here it contains list of passwords that Hydra should use for the test. Then here is the task, and here is the protocol we are attacking and the IP address. Right, so when we hit enter, all right, so it is attacking. Of course, these are things attackers would do, right? So the essence why you have a tool like Snort is to help you detect, right? So that you can take action. You can take action in stopping that attack as soon or as fast as possible. So if we go back to the log, so let's start again. Let me clear. So normally you can use tails. Like I said, later I'll be doing a video on how to use Splunk, right? So with Splunk, we can see all these logs better, right? So you can use tails or you can cut, but let's cut and see. So still the same command, sudo cat, then the path to the log. All right, so you can see right here, it is detecting, right? It is detecting, you can see the dates, and you can see the time. So the time here is 22:07, 22:07, which is this. So I think my Ubuntu time is 1 hour behind, right? So it's 1 hour behind. So now you can see here indicator SSH, indicator scan SSH brute force login attempts. So Snort has detected that for us. Now, where is this attack coming from? You can see the IP address where it is coming from, and the priority level is 3. That means there is a low, is a low risk, right? So it's a low risk attack. So low risks are majorly for maybe information gathering, right? Because Hydra is trying to gather information about the username and password. So it is telling us the attack is coming from here. So let's check if that is the IP address of Kali. Alright, so you can see right here, that is the IP address of Kali, 192.168.56.107. So as you can see, Snort detected that we are currently being attacked from this IP address. Now the destination is definitely the server, right? So you can see it right here, 192.168.56.103 on port 22. So this is a clear evidence or indicator that someone is trying to, get the username and password on that port, right? So this is how you use Snort for detection. So you can see all the attempts, right? So all the attempts were being logged, right? So that is how you can use, you know, Snort. So sometimes you get false positives, which is normal. For example, you can see this. It's calling it shellcode, indicator shellcode. Okay, still related to SSH, right? Still related to SSH. So with this description and all that, you can tell what is happening on your network. All right. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you learned a lot. I believe at this point you have set up Snorts on your own lab environment, right? So thank you very much for watching. So please like, subscribe, share this video to people who need them, other professionals, cybersecurity, tech people who are looking for ways to set up all of these things in the environment. Thank you very much. See you in the next video. Enjoy your day. Bye.